Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for July 1st through 4th, 2022. Well, we're just coming off of very powerful energies of the Cancer new moon. The most intense part of this new moon was the sun and the moon in a conjunction with Black Moon Lilith and square to Jupiter in Aries. Now, the influence of both of these are coming off. We'll feel them through tomorrow. So we're still in the energy, and it takes a couple of days to come out of like the new moon energies. And in this case, with this intense sun square Jupiter, we're still feeling this, and it's this uncomfortable place of, oh yeah, things could change. The energy is moving. I have more access. And yet, what do I do with it? What am I doing? And bringing up even more feelings of frustration and failure, or just feeling like, just this whole thing of waking up to who we are as supernova souls. And this whole year 2022, and I think the last decade, really recognizing how much our life and our daily life doesn't line up with who we really are. I mean, how many situations have you been to where you're like, I need to experience people and social, but can't we just sit down and like pray and meditate and like connect and talk about what really matters? It's like, no, that's not the crowd, because you have not yet found your people. For the most part, supernova souls, pretty rare to have a lot of other supernova souls in your life. And that has to do with the fact, lots of reasons, but one of the main ones coming up right now is in this deep grief, the energy of this activation of Chiron and Aries, of this, the wounds of the masculine, feeling like the masculine inside all of us. It feels like we failed and can't quite get the gumption to figure out how to get back on our horse and get going again. Because every day that goes on, we're just further and further away from our truth. And there's this glimpse and glimmer of possibility and energy that's making it worse, because it's like, slap in the face almost, when you don't know who you are and where you're going, and yet you can feel so much inside of you. So it's like we have this impetus and opportunity for change, and yet the change that we really need and that we all want to see is so radically different from the way we've been living our lives. And then we feel like, I'm a part of the problem because I'm just conceding. Do you ever feel that way? Like in every little way you move through the life. Okay, today I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to live true. I'm going to do this. And then we just concede. This is a huge energy, and the frustration that's coming up right now has to do with Mars in exact square to Pluto. Mars transits always bring an energy of frustration, typically Mars squares. And then with Pluto, big player Pluto, who's just like not going to budge. It's this energy of like, oh yeah, what are you going to do about this? And Pluto in Capricorn, Pluto represents our power and fear of our power, but our psychic power. Mars represents our ego power, or our, not ego isn't the right word, but our lower energetic power, our will force in our body. And then Pluto is around what we don't understand about our intuitive abilities. And so it's also our fear that's been programmed around these intuitive abilities. And so in Capricorn, it represents the structures of our reality that restrict us in our intuitive potential, in our power. And so everything right now that's coming up is everything we talked about, everything in your personal life that just isn't in alignment. It's showing itself very clearly. So karmic relationships and programming, conditioning, belief systems, just that frustration energy. But at the same time, there's a lot of power here, and a lot of power for the masculine inside of ourselves to overcome and see through. Now, this is this jumpstart energy, because we're having a story play out with this whole new timeline, anchoring in a new feels like this Christ consciousness timeline, this ascension timeline. And there was a very powerful marker when Mars and Jupiter came together last month. And now Mars and square to Pluto is the next chapter, or the next indication in this story. And it's saying, yeah, you've been feeling lost and alone and empty and broken and disconnected inside because your life does not fit who you are. And then I can feel supernova souls going, but who the hell am I? What the hell's going on? All right, well, Mars and Aries. Aries is our identity and who we think we are, or it's our individualization. The part of the development of humans when they come in, begin to separate into your own, and it's the spark of creation. So it's about individualism. It's about being who you really are. It's about living your life, being free. This is so important to Aries. And Mars coming to the end degrees of Aries, his home sign, in square to Pluto. And Pluto's just like, all right, did you not see yet the structures that aren't in alignment? But then there's this kind of almost overwhelm at the potential energy because it feels like we're missing the boat or we're not ready. And that's definitely part of this astrology. It's like, are you on the edge of time, riding the wave, or are you chasing your tail? Because the ship is taking off. This is this jump start. This is this energy. It's like, okay, now we're moving. Are you going or are you stagnant? Because if you're not coming along now, you're stagnant. And we've been stagnant for so long, and that's been the whole problem. But there's equal anxiety that comes from moving and moving too fast, right? So the changes that we really are requiring to like snap to it and bend reality and get on that timeline, it's very radical changes and fast. So go easy on yourself. Now, because the other big square that's going on, Mars square Pluto, takes the show. And it's just kind of like, anytime you have Mars squares, like I said, you're going to have just like, it's like, watch yourself out there in traffic, it's like, and things like that. Aggressions frustrations are on the rise or bubbling to the surface. Any suppressed. Aries can't suppress. Aries is like, bah! And, so the Aries energy brings this huge bloom. It brings forward that anything unexpressed around the fire and the truth of who you are in your life and your freedom and your way, your world, your way. And this is our jumpstart to this new timeline. Now, at the same time, though, we've got Mercury at the end degrees of Gemini in his home sign. And Mercury is in square to Neptune in Pisces. So another big square with a big generational change planet, and Neptune is about the delusions and delusions. With Mercury and Neptune, Mercury is the lower mind, and Neptune is like higher spiritual connection and ideas. But when Neptune and Mercury come together, it's often about sorting through truth from delusion, right? And lies from reality. So it's really about coming into clarity, but it's often not very fun. It's kind of easier to stay in the delusion and illusion than face reality and truth sometimes. So the reality and truths that are coming forward that we need to face and get clarity on have to do with the way we want to express ourselves in the world. So if we have structures in our life that aren't supporting our full expression, which is kind of the story of supernova souls, we've often had very limiting karmic relationships that through lifetimes, it's a pattern that's gone on, and that's why it's so difficult to see and understand. But where the people around you not necessarily interested in your full expression. In fact, forces working through them. It's not them, but it's like agreements they've made to play an opposition role to you, to challenge you at every turn. And then we mistake that for love because that's all we've ever known. And all of a sudden we have to completely rearrange. These are the radical changes. The radical changes have to do with our self-worth with Uranus and Taurus, and a massive activation coming around that as Uranus and Taurus comes up to the north node of the moon. Huge. This is like that next chapter of the timeline alignment and kickstart, and that we're already starting to feel this right now. This week, we're feeling Uranus getting closer to that north node. Now they're exact at the end of July and the first week of August, and that's when there's just this, and Mars comes into the mix. So it's like, all right, brand new activated timeline, and Mars says, let's go. But this activation, this Uranus and Taurus is on the one hand about higher frequency vibrations, but embodying them in Taurus, like literally embodying the light. On the other hand, it's also that wealth revolution, the new wealth. And the new wealth, what really matters as we move into higher dimensional reality, it's not this material items that we're, stacking up. That's not wealth. Wealth is invisible. The things that have the most value are the most invisible. And supernova souls, you are full of invisible superpowers that have never been validated. And in fact, everything's gone against gaslighting you and distracting you away from these. So, wow. So it's like uncovering these massive superpowers, and then boom, you're supposed to hit the ground running and be a living and breathing example for humanity. And this is our kickstart. But it's really interesting because Mars square Pluto, tension around what has not been able to change and shift and what needs to for our freedom and our potential and our permission to take back our power, right? And live our truth. Then Mercury square Neptune, the delusions of the past are keeping us from getting clarity and coming into the full expression of our voice. So these energies, it's so interesting because Mars in Aries is in a sextile with Mercury, which is a very sweet energy of creative solutions. So that sextile, but then Mercury and Mars both in these intense squares with these big player planets, it's intense changes. It's intense, bigger messages for us. And so the powerful thing is that, Mars and Mercury are both in their home sign and at the end degrees in these big squares, right? But they're empowered. They have a base of home. And this is what we've been working on. And this is what's so coming up with this Cancer new moon and the sun in Cancer, and a lot of transits coming up with the Cancer and energies as Mercury begins to move into Cancer. And Mercury is going to be catching up to the sun in Cancer. And so it's all about this energy of, yes, there's this activation, but what good is it? What good is your wealth? What good is your clarity if you can't really receive it? If you don't feel worthy, if you don't feel embodied, if you don't feel at home. So massively empowerment to Mercury and Mars at home in these signs, coming to the end degrees. There's a huge bloom of the energy and in these squares. Then on the 6th of July, both of these planets, Mercury and Mars, move from their home sign into the next sign. So Mars in Aries moving into Taurus on the 6th of July, next Wednesday. And then Mercury at home in Gemini moving into the sign of Cancer, chasing the sun and catching up to the sun. So these planets are going from their home sign, which are masculine signs, into feminine signs. So it's saying, all right, you're ready to get up and go. But we can't go the way we did before, right? So much of the astrology has been about learning how to receive in and create, co-create, and move through the world, manifesting with our masculine and feminine intact, with our co-creating, right? With feeling it out. And so it's very powerful because it's like, here we go. And then this shift of these planets into the feminine signs is like, but we got to rest. We got to learn to receive. We got to take care of ourselves. We got to embody. How can we embody and change our physical body into light if we're not caring for our physical body? So this is so much of our wealth and worth when, so this can be really helpful right now for supernova souls to have any kind of practice that around health and exercise or wellness that feels really good to you, not something that's a chore, but like to really, really make time for this, because we are physically transforming our bodies. And so we can say yes to that and get on the front of time with that process by tending to our physical body and being loving and caring. Think about when you go through a big activating experience and then you need some time to adjust and assimilate. And this is kind of what's happening right now. These signs are saying, okay, Mars and Taurus, this is an embodiment. Mars rules the physical body and Taurus is about embodiment or the physical form. And so it's saying it's an activation of the physical form, but it's about embodying, which is about caring and health and coming back to the garden, coming back to the earth, coming back to the raw materials of life, back to what really matters. And so that can be really helpful at this time. And then Mercury is our expression, our mind, our physical, our perspective, and going from at home in Gemini to Cancer. And so it's nurturing and compassion. And this is very profound because the wealth, the incredible product and superpower you have within you from your previous experiences before coming to Earth, it's the same as your ability to embody and energetically resonate with and come from a place of unconditional love. And so where does the compassion come back into this world and our wealth? It's like we can't really claim our wealth and worth until we can be compassionate with ourselves and others. When we can come back into that fold, that connection with the mother, we come at home, feel safe here. And so Mercury is saying it's like this, all about coming out of that retrograde shadow in Gemini. It's time for a new level of expression of our truth. But the part that we're not addressing or haven't been able to integrate is who we are in our unconditional love, because we got beaten down. But this is the thing, like the most successful entrepreneurs are looking and looking and looking for a product and a leader. And supernova souls, by definition, those parts you already have. And can you nurture yourself back into this wealth? Because that's the level of expression, we've got to find that self-compassion and self-care in order to come into that empowered voice. So very powerful astrology, and continue, even though the big planets have turned retrograde. Neptune has just turned retrograde, which is very powerful in this Mercury square Neptune, because it's kind of like, what is going on? But at the same time, tension that's bringing clarity, new clarity. And the clarity has to do with the role of the feminine in forward motion and co-creation and nurturing and loving and unconditional love. And so those energies are really powerful, but then we're moving into that Uranus North Node, whole new direction, whole new activation, and a very rapid acceleration of the higher frequency energies, I would say, in July and August. And we want to be available to receive. So rest, take care of yourself, prepare, be ready. It's a jump start, but we've got to get a little bit more comfortable in the energies before we can fully surrender to the radical change that's required in our life and in our psyche. So just be gentle, careful with yourself, and know that you're completely remaking who you are and your reality in your physical body. So go easy. And know that big changes are around the corner in this massively activating time. And I'm so glad we're here together, Supernova Souls. Thank you so much for being with me. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. Happy birthday to America. May the idea and vision of l'America and the goddess Columbia, the bounty and the possibility of recognizing and living the truth of all men created equal, under the spiritual laws, the natural law, coming back into the role play. And it's definitely the energy of Cancer and a rebirth, coming back into a deep and profound appreciation for the idea and concept and the abundance that's available in the physical world, in our Mother Earth manifest, our goddess, our supreme divine feminine goddess manifest in a physical form that we get to interact and play with. And so this is the birthday of America, and the idea that we haven't even begun to fulfill, and yet the seeds have been planted throughout time for this new world. And let that ring out the possibilities of compassion as the number one generator of wealth as we come back into connection with Mother Earth and Goddess, our goddess Gaia, and how she lives in the image and idea of America. So thank you so much for being with me, and happy 4th of July. And I look forward to seeing you soon on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.